right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today, or I should say tonight, it is 9:12 p.m. Um, April 4th, 2021. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about a petition that is going on and has been put forth around the 26th of February of this year. Now, I know it's been a little over a month since that was actually put in front of Congress. But I want you to understand something. And this is part of the new Witchcraft series that I'm putting forth for the beginners. And I want to go into depths with this because of the fact that a lot of individuals that get into witchcraft, be it teenagers or adults, they really don't take into consideration that eventually you're going to have to choose to follow the right hand path practice of the threefold law of karma, or what you dish out comes back times three, the threefold law, or you're going to have to fight. To fight to practice what you want, to fight to practice what you do, okay? Because in America, we have laws, we have rights when it comes to religious freedom, okay? To practice and worship the way you see fit, okay? Either as an individual, a coven, or a temple or church. Okay? It does not matter if you're Christian. It does not matter if you're a Satanist, a necromancer, a voodooist, or a Santeria or a Palo practitioner, a druid. It does not matter. There are laws in place that have been in place for 300 years. Okay? That protect you as an individual. And knowing your legal rights will protect you in your religion. However, that does not mean that outside influences are not going to try to disband those rights or even to go against them. This is called the adversarial application. Okay. Now, a lot of times when Christians talk about the adversary, they're referring to Satan, who is an archangel. He is not an archangel, he is a watcher, he is a Gorgori, the chief. But they use him as a bad guy, the scapegoat. Okay. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit right now about this. And I'm actually going to read this to you because I found the link. And then I'm going to go into your rights and what you're able to do. Okay. So, as of February 26, 2021, by Andrew Hall. This has 23 comments to it, by the way. And it says Washington, D.C. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is promoting a bill that, if signed into law, will create the Department of Anti-Witchcraft, which is DAW or DAW. The handbook of the DAW will be the gold standard of anti-witchery. The 1490s classic, Malleus Maleficarum, and I've discussed this a while back, also known as the witch's hammer. Okay? Now here it is. The push for the Department of Anti-Witchcraft is yet another sign that Greene is a fanatic who wants to make her brand of Christianity America's #1 dogmatic and foreign concern. She plans the DAW will protect the Judeo-Christian interests wherever they are threatened. Basically, by breathing, you threaten their religious rights. Okay, that's just basically you use the Baphomet statue wrong, and you get sued by the temple, the Satanic Temple. And so, who does not speak for everybody? Okay. Let's see. Wherever they are threatened, God's interests are American interests. Representative Greene said. What will the Department of Anti-Witchcraft do? In theory, The federal department will interface with all other federal law agencies, FBI, NSA, ATF, and ZZ Top, apparently. Have no idea what that represents government agency was, but it's there. The director of DWA will have the power to train all existing and future agents in the skills needed to combat the devil and his lips piticles. Okay. The Bible is true and the devil is real, said Representative Green's assistant Andrew Kennard. What we really need to do is break the cycle where women are introduced to really hot and virile devils. Once that cycle is stopped, God willing, we will be able to ferret out and prosecute guilty witches who are spoiling our cows. I kid you not, it's actually there. I placed this on my Facebook page, and I've also shared it with some others that I know. So it's there if you want to take a look at it. Cow's milk and making male Republican politicians super hungry for the male genitalia and female uppity. Okay, their words, not mine. And you'll read this. Now, Marjorie Greene is not alone in supporting the DAW. Other GOP lawmakers point out there will be a heavenly reward for doing the Lord's work as well as economic benefits in this world. Now, again, economic meaning monetary gain, okay? Just like anything else. So, it is funny. So, benefits in this world. Already there is a burgeoning cottage industry in the manufacture of ducking stools, a traditional Christian medieval method of punishing witches as well as sex workers. Joe Osteen Inc. is reported to be secretly seeking to corner the market in the device designed to place a woman tied to a chair into an icy cold river via the innovative rocker arm. See illustration to the right. Republicans are virtue signaling to Trump supporters. So now we're bringing in Trump into this as well, apparently. There is little chance the anti-witchcraft law is going to be passed when Democrats are in control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. Political scientists assert the intent of these sorts of bills is to signal the evangelical voters and Trump supporters the GOP has not forgotten about them. And I find it interesting. The little, I know you can't see it, but it's a picture of a woman with glasses on her head, and it says, "Hot mom's kids were kicked out of school." The midterm elections are not too far away. Their base has to stay energized even when Republicans plan to steal elections, said Professor Rufus T. Firefly. Green is something of a political fluffer for the former President Donald J. Trump. In all snap polls, 88% of evangelicals support the creation of the DAW. Many believers, if the Supreme Court strikes down the measure, then they will have to attack SCOTUS, SCOTUS, in the same way they attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Okay, that just sounds like criminal activity right there getting ready to take place. Okay. Now, first of all, why don't we talk about this for just a second? And I printed off some stuff earlier that I've had typed up for a long time. And number one, it is interesting to see how Christians push their agenda when they can't even follow their own laws, okay, their own creation. namely the Ten Commandments. I mean, their book is full of contradictions no matter where you look at it. On one hand, you got child sacrificing, you've got fornication between incest and adults, married and not. You have murder, attempted murder. And this is throughout the entire Bible. It's not just in the Old Testament, it's in the New. So, I mean, thou shalt not murder. Well, number one, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, yada, yada, yada. And it's interesting because these are all part of the Ten Commandments. And she's specifically targeting those of witchcraft, okay? Witches, warlocks, sorcerers, sorceresses, no matter what tradition. Now, first of all, I want to say, by bringing in the ATF into this, well, let's just point it out this way. You're going to have a lot of angry Haitians out there. I mean, just think about that right off the bat. A good portion of America right now is practicing some form of African Caribbean traditions. I'm talking about voodoo, hoodooism, Santeria, Palo, both Monty and Mayumbi, Brujeria. You're dealing with Umbra, and Quimbanda, Kimbiza. So, I mean, they use alcohol, they use cigarettes, cigars, a whole bunch of different things right there. So, bringing in the ATF really would be targeting them, which makes it racism at that point. Because you're dealing with Cubans, you're dealing with the Latin America, you're dealing with the African American populace. And so, right there, by bringing them into play, you're targeting them as a race and creed. So, you're basically opening up a can of worms in that department. So, Miss Green, you're about to get your ass kicked in that department. That's all I got to say. So, bringing in the FBI, well, you can just simply go back into the past, say through the Satanic Panic, where every crime turned out to be a Satanist behind it. Well, let's see. Local law enforcement, all the way up into the FBI, have investigated these so-called and alleged criminal activities and determined that they are nothing more than lies. So again, that's a dead end in that department. Okay? So, like I said, I have no idea what this ZZ Top thing is unless they're referring to the band. That's the only thing I can think. And that band happens to be one of my favorite 80s and 90s bands. So, but here's the thing. She's also forgetting about the legal laws that have been put in place to protect the American people. Specifically that of, say, for an example, the First Amendment. Okay. And by First Amendment, I'm referring to what makes up in a category of definition, what makes up a protected religion. Number one, you have to have a church, a temple, or a coven. Okay. Someplace of worship. Okay. Like, and this means you have a place where you can go to worship either as an individual or as a coven-based system, societal system. Number two, you have to have doctrines. Okay, number one, how many doctrines are out there? You have numerous Bibles for Satanism and Wicca and pagan, type practices. You have numerous books on voodoo practitioners, Palo, and a whole, let's just say there's a whole bunch out there of just doctrine. So number one, you got peristals, you got temples, you got covens, you've got places of worship, you got the whole king caboodle right there, just between those two. But then, guess what? You have number three, the third marker, identification marker, and that is followers. How many followers do you have? Okay. And Christians will make that point. How many followers do you have? Especially when they confront you in public. Okay. I always like to toy with them and say, it's not about followers. It's about the knowledge and the wisdom and the growth. It's spiritual growth, physical growth. It has nothing to do with followers. Although if there are people that want to follow you, guess what? That's a good thing. Okay, it means they like what you do and what you put forth. So having followers is a great thing because those are the three main factors that make up a religion, according to the United States Constitution. Okay, that's the U.S. Constitution. First Amendment. Okay, and then you have what is known as the Religious Land Use and Personalized Religious Acts. Okay, right here, this identifies religious land use for building churches, for religious grounds such as burial grounds like cemeteries and churches and all other type of things that deal with that nature. But most importantly, personalized religious acts, which means you as an individual. Okay. Here we see the equal terms. When you want to break it down into the A, B, C, and D aspects of the entire literature of what it's the what I refer to as the easy read, the easy button. It says equal terms clearly states that no individual, organization, assembly, or foundation has the right to limit or deny another's personal religious beliefs. Oops, guess Miss Green did not read that. Alrighty, let's go on. Now, also, there's another thing that helps businesses and corporations. Okay, and it's called the Ramsey Law. The Ramsey Law allows companies and corporations to mandate what is acceptable for you to wear, such as amulets, rings, jewelry, the mala beads and stuff like that. Because underneath this mandate, it comes down to your personal safety. Okay. If you look at, say, for an example, a conveyor belt, obviously you don't want to wear mala or loose clothing, amulets, and stuff like that because you'll get caught in the machine and it could strangle you. You can lose an arm. Okay. So that comes down to a thing of safety. Logic, right? Simple logic. It should be apparent. Now, what's also interesting here is that there are things that you can do when your rights are violated, such as the freedom of religion. And this comes down is broken down between the federal, the state, the local boroughs, and stuff like that. It's known as the borough laws. And when we look at freedom of religion, there are companies that you can go to, like the American Civil Liberties Union, the Department of Justice, and you can file for protection. Okay, you can file your grievance with them, and they take it from there. And if they find that it's been true, and there's a lot of people going after certain organizations, like say the JCI is mandating, like Miss Green is doing, guess what? That's a grievance. And it shows a long history of this individual coming at a certain sect, in this case, witchcraft, witches. Okay. So they would go up and they would fine Miss Green. Both of them would. So she'd have to deal with two different fines by two different departments. Okay, two different organizations. Now, this is federal. Okay, this is what is deemed as federal. So the next would be the state laws. And this allows each state to decide and protect what they decide and protect both individual rights of the practitioner and that of the corporation. Okay. Like I said, then you have the borough. This is the counties, like say, the different counties within each state, and it's called borough laws. And this allows each district to determine what is considered to be a protection in the rights of religious belief structures or the practices based upon the type of need of either legal, corporate, and or personalized religious acts. All right. And with this said, allow me to translate some of the religious laws upon the Civil Rights Act that will be a great aid to you as an individual. Okay. Now, underneath the Civil Rights Act, you have Title VI and VII. Okay. Now, underneath the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, this prevents any type of religious discrimination by employers and other religious foundations. Okay. This means they cannot terminate you, they cannot come at you in any way associated with your religion. Okay. And this also goes with if you're selling product like, say, amulets, totems, um, talismans, and other type of things, they cannot discriminate against you on that foundation. And this also goes with your sexuality and the way you dress and stuff like that. So really keep in mind. Okay, that's Title VI and Title VII of the 1964 and 1969 Civil Rights Act. Okay. Now, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which is commonly known as RFRA and pronounced as RIFRA, okay, was passed in 1993 and designed for a stronger religious protection within an individual's exercises. Okay, basically, strict scrutiny is the legal standard term for the purpose of this act. Okay, and then if you go back throughout history, you also have the established clauses that are broken down into sections, such as the Bill of Rights of 1689. You have the Article of Configuration of 1789, and then you have the Blue Law. Okay, so I mean, each of these three sections clarified more clearly of the purpose and need of the First Amendment, business rights, and that of the rights of the individual. Okay, so when you look at this stuff, I want you to think about this. You're always going to have some moron out there trying to limit you. By knowing your rights, you basically put them on the defensive. It will piss them off like crazy, and you know what? That's on them because they're breaking the law. They're breaking the federal, state, and borough laws at that point. Okay? And at this point, bringing forth the 14th century doctrine, okay, from the Catholic Church is in her view, and I want you, let me bring this up one more time because there's a section here I want you to hear, and it is just underneath here. The push for the Department of Anti-Witchcraft is yet another sign Green is a fanatic who wants to make her brand, keywords there, her brand of Christianity America's #1 domestic and foreign concern. Okay? Now, first of all, it's common sense that if you're not a part of, say, the church, and you want nothing to do with any other religion, isn't it common sense to stay the fuck away? Think about that for just a minute. Just stay away from it. It's not that hard to do. And yet, I don't see any other religion going around trying to enforce themselves on others. I mean, outside of the Satanic Temple, but let's face it, the Satanic Temple has their own agenda. I don't consider them satanic. I don't consider them part of Satanism. It's the same thing with this Church of Satan. They're more atheistic than anything, and even the TST members have clearly said on interviews that they're atheists. So why believe in a devil? Why believe in a Satan? Okay, just pointing that out. So I mean, if you're going around suing multiple different states like the TST is doing. Obviously, that's over their members' rights. Okay. Now, one of the biggest things that I've noticed about them is that they have sued Hollywood, specifically that of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Very good show, by the way. I like that show. I get a big kick out of it. And it was over their utilology of and uses of Baphomet. Well, number one, Baphomet is not satanic. It's not even part of demonolatry. Well, technically it is demonolatry, come to think about it, but it goes back to the Knights of Templar. And he brought wealth and power to the knights before they were hunted down, disbanded, and tortured and killed and imprisoned. And that was by the church, by the way. But let's take a look at this. Thou shalt not murder. Okay. We have nothing to do with children or animal sacrifices. Well, let's see. You have your so-called sin offerings, Book of Leviticus, known as the Book of the Law. You got an animal sacrifice and detailed description of how these rites were performed through the Hebraic and Jewish belief structures. You have Abraham sacrificing his own son in the book of Genesis. Or how about the two goats, one being slaughtered in the name of Yahweh, Yazad, Jesus, your so-called God. So you have the blood placed in a chalice on the altar. You have the carcass being burned on a fire pit just outside of the main temple. And then you have the entrails just being hung or placed on a specific location to rot in the sun. Or how about we go into Leviticus 10 through 16, and that's chapter, by the way, chapters. How about outside of that one? What about the goat and the detailed rites having to go down a very rocky terrain with people standing at certain decimals to see how far down that goat went, all caught up like shivers of knives. You see my point. How about stoning Paul in the New Testament? How about Daniel and his friends? Daniel being tossed into an in-ground cavern with hungry lions, or his friends being put into a boiler to be burned alive. How about the crucifixion? Hmm. Broken legs, nails going through the shins and the hands. How's that not human sacrifice or animal sacrificing? And you say, oh, we don't do that? We've never done that? Bullshit. Read your own Bible. So my response to Miss Green is this. Get your own house in order before you go up against anyone else. And even a coworker of mine, when I showed him that today, he came right on and said, it seems like Satanists have their shit together, unlike the Christians. That's funny. And I do have to say that. So when you look at this stuff, I want you to do your homework. And if you actually looked at the Maleficorum, the witch's hammer, you're talking drowning through weights. You're talking torture. you're talking murder, life in prison. But then again, by the Catholic perceptions, they classify three types of witches. The first, priests, are the only ones who can practice witchcraft without getting tempted or dirtied. Number two, the so-called white witch, who went before the church and petitioned to do some form of spells, mostly healing. And the church would say yay or nay. Basically, if they say yes, then they go ahead and do it. If they say no, guess what? You don't fucking do it because they're too much of a freaking pussy to actually go out and do it. And that brings me to the third classification that the Catholic Church and the Vatican actually recognized throughout the medieval time period. And that is the black magician, the dark sorcerer. These types never ask for permission to perform with any form of witchcraft. Even the Bible mentions a few of these. And no, I'm not joking. You look at, for an example, let's talk about their Messiah, for an example. A prime example. He helped a blind man see. He calmed the weather, such as the waves on the Jordan. Calmed the wind. That's aeromancy, hydromancy, and alchemy. You got necromantic practices, bringing Lazarus back from the dead, the centurion's daughter back from the dead. But how about divination perspective? Well, let's go back. You have just about every prophet that was ever mentioned in the Old Testament, all the way to the four Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, that has chiromantic experiences. Chiromantic principles are based off conjuration, or for that, you have rejuvenation of corpses. But let's go back even further. Let's go back to King Saul. King Saul was the king that befriended David, King David. Now, Saul sent out his best men to find the best seer, because at the time he was in a 40-year war with the Turks, and he wanted to know how he could end it. Ironically, it came down to David with 3 stones. One hit right here and killed Goliath. David versus Goliath. Okay? But he went and he went to the Witch of Endor and he said, hey, I need this. And she said, she called him out on his deception and said, you trying to ensnare me? Meaning she had the power and the knowledge, the insight. He did not. Or better yet, what about all the experiences with the angelics, such as Michael in the Old Testament, the warrior, the soul collector, as his name was pronounced and recognized as, within cuneiform. In the New Testament, it was Gabriel, who was an archangel. Now, the very definition of angel is warrior, a warrior race. And yet Christians believe that they are lovey-dovey messengers. I mean, what are they, Hermes? Think about that for just a minute. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, Greek mythology. Think about this. This is all facts. I mean, hell, there are so many different laws that are out there that protect us. But it's common sense that Christians are the biggest hypocrites out there. And they're the only ones thinking they're better than everyone else. So why would you want to be a part of that? Why would you want to follow somebody like Miss Green? Do you really want to go back to murdering, raping, pillaging anyone who disagrees with you? I mean, did Nicholas Remy's book Demonolatry not, you know, teach you anything? Did Reginald Scott's book on witchcraft, Discovery of Witchcraft, not teach you anything? I mean, how many of you in the Grimoire systems did not learn anything about forcing a demon or any other spirit to do your will? Hmm. How'd that work out for you? Bet you got your ass handed to you because you weren't using humbleism. You weren't putting forth an offering or sacrifice. The left hand path utilizes self growth, evolution, self apotheosis, even Buddhism. Exactly, Pharaoh. Buddhism, depending if it's South American or Asian. Personally, I like the Asian variation because they have multiple hells, meaning multiple different kingdoms within the hells. And it goes along with the current path that I'm following. So I want you to think about this. I want you to use your head. I want you to do your homework. I want you to learn for yourself, not for somebody else. Just because I'm telling you these answers, I want you to keep in mind that I'm only showing you this. That's right, this. Okay? That's just a small little tidbit. You want to get into the laws and understand them, you're going to be learning this for yourself. And people like Miss Green or this Obstein guy, Ink guy, they're never going to get a foothold. Why? They can put it on Trump, they can put it on the Democrats or anybody else. It's called deflection. It's called self-deceit. It's called dogma for a reason. These people that are making all this commotion, all they're doing is lying to themselves because they want to stay stagnant in old beliefs, the old ways. If you look at today's Christian, doesn't matter if it's apostolic, Pentecostal, doesn't matter if it's Jehovah Witness, Catholicism, they're stuck in the old ways. They're so stagnant that they're barely even holding on. And I was talking with a coworker of mine who's Wiccan, and I thought, and we were discussing this. I said, I wonder what's going to happen when they realize that they're outnumbered 10-1 between every system that is not JCI. You consider you got probably 2% that is one form or another of Christian, either Catholicism or mainstream. The rest are just about every other system out there. Spiritualists, pagans, Wiccans, neo-pagans, voodooists, practitioners of some form, art, or craft. That's like 99% of America would be in prison, tortured, or killed. That's 99%. So obviously, Miss Green and this Obstein person did not do their fucking math. And that's the funny part. They aren't thinking, they're just acting. And what it comes down to is the same as the CDC. They don't get the funding if nobody's pronounced positive with COVID or any other disease. It's a great business now, isn't it? And that's exactly what the JCI are. It's a business, a corporation. They're a multi-billion-dollar industry, just like any other corporation. The Ramsey Law would protect. Just like Satanism, it's become an industry. just like any other tradition. Look at Bog. It's an industry. It's a business. Just saying. And I'm putting that out there right now. So the next time you come across somebody like these two people, I want you to remember your legal rights. I want you to remember that you have rights and you don't have to put up with their discrimination. You have rights. Utilize them, enforce them. If you're in the workplace, go outside the manager's office or in the break room. They always have those little laws right on the walls. It's called labor law rights. And you do have the right to use them. Because all America's been doing lately is trying to take away your voice. They're trying to make an example. My way or the highway. Well, I hate to break it to you, Miss Green, but if you're a representative in the Congress or the I can't speak tonight. The representatives, then you should know that freedom of speech, freedom of religion is part of the United States Constitution. That's federal law, which means you don't have a right to limit or deny anybody's belief. And as for the government officials, you answer to the people of the United States, not the other way around. So remember that. Indeed. I mean, you look at everything that's took place last year. Okay, you had half the country burning and the other half up in rioting over a man that was killed by an officer. Obviously, the officer is guilty as all hell because he was caught on camera while the guy was begging for him to get off him so he can breathe. That's murder. This is things that Miss Green and her little fanatics want to take away from you. They want to follow that aspect, and that's clear. Why else are they pushing this agenda? And you got a lot of racism out there. You've got discriminations out there. And a lot of this is due, hell, even I've experienced religious discrimination down in Texas when I lived there. I can't tell you how many warnings I got while I was just in Red River County, Texas. I call it Hicksville because it's basically what it is. If you're not part of the good old boys group, you're not going to get very far. And that with the Catholic Church down there, well, guess what? I found it ironic that the church bought out the house I was living in at the time, not realizing that, guess what? He left 2 days earlier. So, but yeah, you're going to experience all this stuff. You're going to be experiencing discrimination, racism, the whole king caboodle when you get into witchcraft or any other type of sorcery, which is why it's good to know your rights. So keep that in mind, and I do recommend that you delve into them. I gave you a good head start right here. Okay? Take notes, go back forth, take the notes, write them down. Like I said, it's the 1969 Civil Rights Act, titled VI and VII. Okay? I want you to read them all. Okay? Go all the way back to the ones that I mentioned earlier. Okay? Such as the Bill of Rights of 1689, the Articles of Configuration 1789, and the Blue Law, okay, as well. The Ramsey Law is the other one. Outside of that, just go through the U.S. Constitution, and you'll see exactly what I mean. All right. With that said, have a good night, and until next time, And hey, Kelvin Frazier. Long time no see, brother. But as I said, I want to thank everybody from Kayato and Pharaoh and Kelvin for coming on with me. If you like this channel and you like what I do, feel free to subscribe or don't. It's up to you. You can simply follow. I don't mind. For me, it's not about popularity or numbers. As long as you're learning something, that's all that matters to me. All right? Have a good one.